Morning everyone, I've got someone here for you to see. She's been missing the last few days. In the last video I told you that Pat's mum died and we had to come back. We got a compassionate leave to go home to Pat's house, and we were trying to piece together bits and pieces of information, because we're finding it a bit difficult to remember exactly what the situation was. When we got back, Pat's grandma, was living in the house. She'd been living in the house with Pat's mum and blind Molly and Brian, your brother, and Pamela, your sister. I mean, they were all in a scullery house.
Well, it wasn't a scullery house, it was just one room downstairs and 3 rooms up. It had 2 bedrooms.
Didn't even have a separate kitchen.
No.
And they were all them lot in that house.
Yeah.
So when we got back, there was Pat's grandma, who would have been, how old would your grandma have been? In her 70s?
Yeah, 70s.
Then, in that house looking after Brian, your brother, Pamela, your sister, and blind Molly.
Yeah.
What's the story behind blind Molly, Pat?
My mum was matron of an old people's home, and I lived with her at this home. And she befriended Molly, who lived in the old people's home. Molly were blind. Some of them were blind, some of them weren't. And she always promised Molly that when she got a house of her own, she would take Molly out of that care home and bring her to live with us. Because obviously my mum were not well at that time either. I think I were about, when my mum were at that home, I was 11, maybe. And I loved it because I just mucked in with everybody else, cleaning bedrooms and making beds and baking and setting dining room tables. It was great. And we had a little flat, but it only had 1 bedroom. So I eventually found a room right up in attic, above the kitchens, and I had my own little space there. It was great. All my posters up on wall, of Elvis and all them.
How did that come to an
end? I don't know.
You don't remember?
Well, my mum was drinking then, and she'd had an operation, hadn't she?
I don't know. I didn't know you when you were 11. Love.
Yeah, she'd had an operation, and I think it just became too much for her.
Right.
Really. So she left there, but Molly stayed, and eventually we got this bungalow type house. And my dad moved in again so that my mum could afford this bungalow. And she brought Molly to live with her.
And that's
there.
where I met you. You were in there, that bungalow, when I met you.
Yeah, it was a dormer bungalow. It had bedrooms above.
Yeah, and Molly was there. So all the time I knew you, Molly was living with you.
Yeah.
And she was still living with you there when your mum died.
When my mum left my dad again and moved into this rented 1 down, 3 up. It had an attic bedroom, 2 other bedrooms.
Right. So that was the situation.
A weird family we were, really weird family.
Well, I'll have to agree with that. We went to the funeral, and what we can't quite remember is at some point I must have applied for a compassionate discharge while this happened in September 1969, and as far as I can remember, what did I do? I finished up back at the laundry. I actually got a job. My dad got me a job at the laundry again. And I worked at the laundry until I had to go back. I had to go back round about, I think it was December. I always remember that working at the laundry at that period, because I saw my dad in his suit, because he was a boss there, and he was humping these blooming great baskets of laundry onto the back of a van. And I said to my dad, "You shouldn't be doing this, Dad." And I helped him on with these baskets, and he didn't know that he were heading for his first heart attack. So that was me working at the laundry. I must have applied for a compassionate discharge, and when I had to go back, and I left Pat with Grandma while I went back, and we'd arranged for Andy, I think it was Andy who was my best man, to pack his stuff up from the flat. I don't remember ever going back to that flat. The funny story is that just before we left, at this point, we had a pet crow that went missing, Spangler. It was called Spangler Arlington Bow.
It lived in our bathroom that had the run of the flat.
It did.
But it wouldn't go outside, it couldn't fly.
What happened was, we were on exercise in the tanks, and there were a guy who were ex-SAS, and he used to go off early mornings with an homemade bow and arrow and shoot stuff and skin it and cook it. He was, And he got this it were a chick, a young thing, and he kept it in a tin helmet, and he were going to keep it, raise it, feed it. He fed it until it could fly, and then he were going to shoot it. So I rescued it and brought it home.
Made a perch for it.
Yeah. Didn't it break its feet? Broke a foot?
Yeah.
And we had to make a splint out of a cotton and a matchstick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It used to go for me.
Oh, it didn't like him.
Didn't like me.
It used to fly at his ankles.
Well,
it shit all over.
It did.
Fortunately, there were wooden floors, so it cleaned up all right.
But it went missing just before this happened, didn't it?
Yeah, it was sat on kitchen windowsill and it disappeared. I didn't know whether it had fallen out.
It didn't like heights.
So I was searching in garden for this crow. It were a big one.
By then.
Oh, didn't we have to put it outside in a?
Did we? Maybe we did.
A little cage during day, and it went missing, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and we had to leave. So there was no we could do about it.
We never saw that again. And
no.
I don't think I ever went back to the flat. It were all packed up into MFO boxes, and I were back in Germany again.
Well, one thing had gone missing, and that was Bible we bought.
Aye, we had a massive
Bible, all leather and gold leaf edging.
Yeah, it was.
And it was supposed to be to put our
family tree
in it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we ever got round to doing that, but it went missing, didn't
it?
It
did, yeah.
It never came back to us.
No, no, it didn't.
Don't know where that went.
But the sad thing is, the incident with the Opal, when I drove the Opal back and got caught by police, that was still hanging over me at that point. And then I did another stupid thing, because I got into a fight. I took Andy, because at that time I was still a corporal, and I took him into the mess, the corporal's mess, and Andy wasn't a corporal, he were a buckshee. And one of the bloke's wives complained about Andy being in there, and I told her to shut up and one thing and I don't know, and her husband started at me, and we started fighting, and I finished up on a fizzer for that.
He had his wedding suit on and got thrown down some steps and absolutely ruined it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I did. And the OC got me into his office, and he said he was sick and tired of me. Well, I bet he was. And he said, if I hear anything more about you, your discharge is out of the window. Well, what he didn't know was the Opal carry on. Well, I left his office, and all day long it were on my mind, and I'm thinking, oh my God, have I gone and wrecked my discharge? Anyway, I arranged for another interview with him that day, and later that day, and I went in and I'm stood in front of him, and I said, you know, this morning you told me you didn't want to see me again, or my discharge were out the window. He said, yes. I said, well, you are going to see me again. Why? And I told him the story. And he said, a long pause, you know, and then he said, when can you get a flight? Just like that. And I said, tomorrow. Be on it. And that were it. I was on the flight the following day, and that was December, 30 days after November, April, June, 30 days September, April. That was December the 31st, because I was in Chatham on New Year's Eve, 1969, getting my discharge. And I got my discharge on the 1st of January 1970. And that, funnily enough, I met my roommate, not Paul Hewson. Paul Hewson, I don't know what happened to Paul, he got posted. But I got another roommate, and he used to drink a bottle of Bacardi every day. He was an alcoholic. And he was there, he'd had a... He was just taken out of my room screaming in pain, in agony, and I never saw him again until he was in Chatham when I was getting my discharge. He'd been in hospital, and he had 3 months to live. He got cirrhosis of the liver, I said. He were older than me, but he wasn't old. He would have only been in his late 20s. Might have been his early 30s. And that were it. That was the end of my army life. So another chapter starts. Are you ready? Because it's a roller coaster.
You doing that now?
No.
No, later.
No. What do you reckon, Pat? Eh?
He's been a bugger. He has.
This life story of mine.
Oh dear.
At least it's a bit cheerier than my last one.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real sad affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Anyway, that's over now. We go on to the next stage. Okay, see you later. Bye.
Bye.